Alright, so I'm resting up at Stormhill Shack. We have just killed a undead fisherman sort of guy, and we gathered up a bunch of runes at a couple of graveyards after that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and do something that is extremely optional. So there's a certain point in the game where you can go beyond the realm of Limgrave / Weeping Peninsula and rest at any site of Grace to open up Roundtable Hold, which is where you can start upgrading your weapons further, upgrading your spirit ashes, stuff like that. I do need to preface that this advances some storylines, so there's like the little lady who's actually resting here at Stormhill Shack. It'll advance her storyline a little bit. So if that bothers you, don't do this part. I have actually never done it any other way, mainly because the first playthrough I just kind of stumbled into Caelid, I think, and rested and unlocked Roundtable Hold early. I don't think you miss out on a whole lot by going to Roundtable Hold early. But we're going to do a couple of things before we go there. And what we're going to do here is we are going to be running around Godric's castle, and we are going to go to Liurnia the Lakes, which beautiful place, one of my most favorite places in the game. And we're going to pick up one tool there and one incantation. So there's this kind of semi-secret path that skirts you around Stormhill Castle here. And we're kind of running along through there, just picking up all the crafting ingredients along the way. There's a few wolves and stuff like that. Not worth fighting. Just blast through everything on Torrent and you'll be fine. It's kind of weirdly scenic, cliff-like thing. Almost like riding a roller coaster or something like that. At least that's kind of what it feels like when you're running through here with Torrent. But eventually we'll make it through this little rocky kind of ledge here and we'll come out into an open area that'll have a site of grace for us. So we see that little title screen pop up there, Liurnia the Lakes. We're going to peg that grace. We're not going to rest at it yet. The second you rest at a site of grace after Stormhill Castle, you will get transported to Roundtable Hold. There's a church right here. It's got an upgrade material. We're going to run in there, get the sacred tear. There's a guy there. He's sad. We'll help him out later. We're going to hold off on doing that part, though, until after we go through and beat Margit in Stormhill Castle. We're just kind of doing a little skip ahead here to pick up some useful items. Liurnia is... I love these views running through here. These are some of my favorite views in the game, looking down on all these spires rising up from the lake here. So what we're doing here is we're running ahead and we're going to grab a tool called the Spirit Collar Bell. Just pegging sites of grace as I see them as we go through here, by the way. Again, not going to rest at any of them yet because I don't want to get teleported to Roundtable Hold right away. But let's see. There's a map fragment up ahead here, so I see the pillar there. This one's going to be guarded by a couple of creepy undead guys that are maybe a tiny bit overleveled for us. Well, maybe not overleveled yet. We're pretty powerful for this. But essentially we're just going to drop the map fragment and go and really not mess around with anyone here for the moment. But once we have this map fragment, I can kind of get a little bit of a visual by going into the overhead map in terms of where I actually want to go to pick up this tool that I know is in this area. And it's called the Spirit Collar Bell. And what it is it's something... It's funny that they put it in Liurnia the Lakes because it's way more useful in Limgrave and the Weeping Peninsula than it is in any of the later sections here. So I'm kind of tagging where to go to pick that up on the map. Kind of have it vaguely memorized because there is an awful creature in that area that you really want to avoid called a Revenant. Hate them so much. They're not so bad if you cast a heal spell on them, but we very much want to avoid going into the center section of the ruins there. So we're kind of going to skirt around the edges when we start seeing ruins up ahead until we get to my little marker there. So yeah, I think there's like a gazebo in the middle of one of these ruin sections here where that little Revenant guy is hiding a little bit further ahead. mushrooms. Always got to get the mushrooms. But yeah, so what the Spirit Collar Bell is it's a tool that is an unlimited usage range to attack that has, and it's in this place, the Laskyar Ruins here, so we got to skirt around the edges of these to not aggro the awfulness. And what it does is it uses a little bit of FP, and it summons this really slow motion projectile that doesn't do a lot of damage, but it has insanely good tracking and insanely long range. So it's in this little underground chest here in the ruins. We pick that up, and now without any need for intelligence or anything like that, we have a very long ranged attack that we can use that's very cheap in terms of FP. And what that's useful for is it's useful for drawing single enemies out of a group. So you basically stand far away from a group and you just want to draw aggro on one of them one at a time. You use the Spirit Collar Bell, and you can pull them in one at a time to come attack you. And like I said, it's got very good tracking and very good range, so it's pretty easy to pull enemies in from afar using that. And the next thing we're going to grab is we are going to end up grabbing an incantation in this area called Bloodflame Blade that's just rolling around being pushed by a dung beetle on the surface. There's Patch there by the side of Grace. We'll talk to him later. Not right now, though. So Bloodflame Blade. It is essentially a way to increase the blood loss buildup on items. It's an incantation, so you can cast it to apply a weapon buff to a weapon that doesn't have like an elemental damage infusion. So you can't use it on like holy infused or cold infused, magic infused, fire infused, flame art infused, lightning infused, that sort of stuff. But if you just have something that has the basic heavy infusion or the standard infusion, one of those guys, I think heat infusion as well. Quality? Yeah. Any of the infusions that doesn't add like anything special. Like you can't even do it on like the ones that add blood loss buildup. But you can apply weapon buffs to a normal kind of infused weapon. And when you do that with Bloodflame Blade, it adds additional blood loss buildup, and it adds a bit of fire damage based solely on the faith portion of your scaling. So when we have an enemy that we want to hit a lot and build up with blood loss, it's almost like having an unlimited supply of blood grease. So the reason I say this is optional is because when we were in, Fort Hate, there was a recipe book there where we got the recipe for blood grease. I just find it kind of annoying to continuously farm up the ingredients for blood grease and use it. So instead of making that consumable item to apply blood loss buildup to our weapon, I just like running up here and getting the incantation to do it. So we are going to augment the blood loss buildup at the Morningstar when we go and take down Margit. So you can either use blood grease to do that, and you'll get essentially the same result that I'm going to use here in the future, shortly in the future here when we take out Margit. You'll get effectively the same effect using blood grease as you do with me using Bloodflame Blade. So I know it's somewhere here. There it is up ahead. There's that little ball rolling around there. And I completely whiffed the first time, and I'm worried it's going to disappear, and I'm panicking, but eventually I just start swinging, and this guy's going to come up here and start wailing on me, and it's going to suck. But eventually we get it. Bloodflame Blade does need a little bit of arcane in addition to faith to cast it, but it's kind of one of the best weapon buffs in the game, I think, just because of blood loss build up in addition to fire damage. Very good, because fire damage is also one of those ones where there are a lot of enemies that are kind of weak to it. There's a lot of plant enemies. There's like the hands that you can paralyze with fire damage. Overall, very kind of good incantation. So we can see here I warp back to Stormhill, and it advanced this lady's plot. So I pick up the golden seed that's in the Stormhill shack here, and when I rest at this site of grace, Melena's going to appear, and she's going to take us to Roundtable Hold.
Forgive me. to determine if you had It seems my worries were unfounded. Torrent had your measure from the very start, whereas I merely pretended. There is but one other thing I can do to offer you. I can take gathering place. Very well, let my hand...
Alright, so Roundtable Hold is a lot of talking to people when you first get there. So I'm kind of like fast forwarding through this in the background here. Main thing is to get Rodrika set up as the spirit tuner. I'm also going to talk to the smithing guy here, Hugh, and get him to upgrade my finger seal, my little casting implement there. Now that I'm going to be using Bloodflame Blade, upgrading it a little bit to help with its damage makes a little bit of sense now. So upgrading the seal will increase that fire portion. Doesn't affect the blood loss buildup, unfortunately. Well, it would be probably way OP if it did. But it improves the fire damage, the bonus fire damage that I'll get when I use Bloodflame Blade, so I'm doing that. So, once we get out of Roundtable Hold, Roundtable Keep, City Keeper Hold, I forget. But we're going to go back to the Weeping Peninsula, and we're going to do some things down there. And the first thing we're going to do is probably going to go very horribly for us because I don't fight this boss very often. We're going to go into another Evergaol here, kind of like the one where we fight Darwell. This one is locked by a stone sword key. So we've picked up a couple along the way, so we have that to use here. And we are opening up this Evergaol because the boss inside the Weeping Evergaol drops a talisman that buffs our strength and carry capacity in exchange for us taking more damage. It's very handy. I usually don't fight this boss because there's a better version of that talisman just laying on the ground. I'll show you where that one is. Some people kind of think it's a little bit cheesy to just run through and die and get that talisman because you have to run through an area that you're typically under-leveled for to grab it. So I'm going to grab like the weaker version here and just try it out and see how it goes. But I don't fight this boss very often, and it doesn't go well. Spoiler alert. So I'm going to buff up after I enter the Evergaol. Use Bloodflame Blade and my Flask of Wondrous Physic and all that. I'm going to try my usual hitting this guy with Stamp Upwards Cup. But he is very dodgy with regards to it. He also is not easily stance broken, apparently. I am used to like a couple hits with this breaking someone's stance. This guy is not one of those bosses, apparently. So, yeah, this doesn't go particularly well. But long story short is this first attempt against him, I also messed up and sheathed my sword there and lost my Bloodflame Blade damage, which was dumb. So I had to reapply that here. But he gonna kill me in short order here. Well, I actually get reasonably close. He does have a phase change, where after the phase change he starts doing a lot more frostbite buildup. That's that blue bar there. It's kind of similar to blood loss buildup. you know, takes a chunk off your health, but also does a debuff that then makes you take more damage. So I'm not the best at dodging, so... And this guy's good at dodging me. He's actually better at dodging me than I am at dodging him, which is sad. But, you know, dodging isn't really my cup of tea in this game. You don't have to dodge. People tell you have to dodge. But yeah, he got me. Rats. So, I think he only gets me once, though. Again, spoiler alert. We get him on the second time. We'll get our revenge here. So we revive at the Stake America. Make sure to pick up our runes, and we're going to give this another try. So I don't know why this guy's in jail. It's never really perfectly clear, I don't think. The Zaymor guys here, they are, I think, the allies of Marika way back in the day. I think they helped fight the fire giants. You know, they become kind of common enemies later in the game. I think there is one down in a tomb somewhere that I haven't fought in forever. That probably, I think he might drop his armor and give some like lore piece stuff on them. I forget the details of their lore. So I don't know why this guy is actually in a prison here, given that they are kind of the allies of humanity as they fought against the giants way back in the day. At least I think they were. I vaguely remember that. But you'll note here that I am pulling out the Spirit Calling Bell and kind of cheesing this guy a little bit. He is able to dodge them a little bit. It's not doing very much damage though, so I kind of rapidly give up on that. But yeah, switching back to Stamp Upwards Cut because the damage on the other thing was terrible. Once again, I accidentally sheathed my sword and lost Bloodflame Blade. Bloodflame Blade does not last very long, by the way. That's one drawback to it, is it lasts like 40 seconds, I think. It's not even like a full minute. So it may just have, the timing may have just run out there. I'll have to, well, I'm not going to go back and re-edit it, so you can go back and look and see if the timing ran out or if I accidentally sheathed my sword. That's one annoying thing about weapon buffs in this game. If you swap your weapons at all, you'll lose them. It kind of, it's just annoying. Video gameism. I almost get killed again here. I get really impatient, which is a bad thing to be in Elden Ring. But, yeah. Smacked away at him until he died. And we get Radagon's Soreseal. So Radagon's Soreseal is the talisman I was talking about. And what it does, we're going to go ahead and equip it here in short order. First, we're going to level up, though. We got a bunch of runes from all the stuff we've been doing here. So we're leveling up our vigor and getting up to level 29, and we have 18 vigor. But what Radagon's Soreseal does is it adds +3 to all your physical attributes. So that's like strength, vigor, endurance, and dexterity. So you get more carry capacity, you get more health. The more health part's kind of important because of the drawback of the seal there. You get more, more strength to do more damage and more dexterity to help us equip items that have a higher dexterity requirement. The drawback is you take more damage. Now, the vigor bonus that you get offsets that up to a certain point. So when your vigor is low, that +3 vigor, is the percentage it increases your health by is more than the percentage damage you'll be taking, but it rapidly drops off as your vigor goes up. So like going from vigor 18 to 21 using that talisman is a good enough of a health increase that it makes sense to use it. But if you're going from like vigor 50 to vigor 53, the drawback in terms of the damage you take is, outweighs the benefit of the talisman. So we are dungeon diving now. So we have made it to the Tombsward Catacombs down in the Weeping Peninsula. And we are here to get a better Spirit Ash. So we've been using our little wolf guys forever, and they're great. They're for a starter item, they're actually really good. I kind of like the wolves. But we are, mainly because there's 3 of them and they can effectively stun lock people. A lot of like weaker bosses, they can stun lock. So they drop off pretty quickly though. And we are kind of approaching that point where their usefulness is kind of at an end. So we're going to grab one of the better spirit ashes in the early part of the game anyways. And that is Lhutel the Headless. So we're fighting our way here through packs of skeletons. And the boss of this set of catacombs here is going to drop Lhutel. All these skellies are undead like the guys by the fishermen in the water. So you do need to kill them twice. When they go down to the ground, you got to hit the glowing bodies to die and put them to sleep for good. So Lhutel the Headless is a very interesting spirit ash. And that's because they have a melee attack, a ranged attack, and a teleport. So there's a lot of versatility in how she can attack opponents. And the teleport is interesting because it keeps her alive. It's effectively like a dodge roll. But what also happens is when she teleports, she will drop aggro on the boss, and the boss will come back after you. And this creates this like really kind of interesting thing where, and I just did something that I should mention. There was a fire column up there that I need to make drop to the ground, and I used Margit's shackle to make it drop down. So normally you have to hit those with an attack to make them go up and go down. Margit's shackle acts as a very long range attack in dungeons like this to make like all the columns in the dungeon go up and down. They still haven't patched that out of the game this many years in, so I think they just consider it a feature at this point. But yeah. Anyway. So, rode up a pillar there, pulled the lever, that opens up the boss door. So, I'm going to do something dumb here, and I kind of get greedy. So, eventually I'm going to be wanting to get upgrade materials for Lhutel, which are ghost gloveworts. Now, I see something up ahead that could either be a ghost or a grave glovewort. In almost all these catacombs, it's almost always grave gloveworts. So it was dumb for me to run up and get that. I kind of knew it was probably a grave glovewort. I had this genius plan where I was going to run in there, know it was going to aggro a bunch of skeletons, and I just ride up the pillar and get away, but then I fuck up and don't get up the pillar because skill issue, I guess. And they mob me and kill me, and now I am sad and crumbling into dust and ash and all that good stuff. We died to common enemies. How terrible. So back to the site of grace, and yeah, running back down. The boss doors ahead of us are open. I'm gonna go grab the runes first, though. I don't need to aggro that big group of enemies again to get them, so I'm just gonna go make sure I grab those. Don't want to waste them. It's an easy enough of a run to get them anyways. So gonna kill the other skeletons on the way back down to where they were. and recover those. I like Spirit Ashes in this game. A lot of people who are used to older Souls games, I think they're like, oh, that's cheating and such and such. I actually like the layer of strategy that it adds, because they legitimately change how fights feel. You know, it's a very different feel to a fight using the 3 Spirit Wolves, and it's going to be using Lhutel, or it is using like an archer like Latena. And then it gets really crazy strategic when you start using the Mimic tier, and you're selecting gear that you'll have the Mimic tier use, but then maybe you'll swap out of it and use something else for attacking. I like that layer of complexity that it adds. So Lhutel is the one that I like for most of the early portions. I actually really like Latena over in Liurnia the Lakes as well. The 2 of those are probably my 2 favorite kind of early game Spirit Ashes to use. But Lhutel is very versatile in that because she has both a ranged attack and a melee attack. She works well generally against a bunch of different bosses, especially when you consider the survivability that she has. So I got my runes. I'm not going to go back into the Room of Death that killed me before. Sometimes skeletons drop mushrooms. That's good to know. And I hate mushrooms in real life, by the way. I don't eat them. But they're very useful for burning those that deserve it in this game. So we're going to go run back to the boss store here. And when we get to the boss store, we are going to buff up outside it. So before stepping through, we are going to drink our flask of Wondrous Physic. We are going to apply Blood Flame Blade. And then when we step through the fog door, we are going to summon our Spirit Wolves, and we are going to be set upon by a glass cannon. So this Cemetery Shade can paralyze you with those green laser beams. Dodge to the side to avoid those. But he does like these flurry attacks that do a ton of blood loss build up. He can, it's not a true one-shot because he hits you multiple times, but if you catch that flurry, it will just ruin your day. It'll kill you. So try and let the wolves kind of hold aggro on him, and you can just, wreck him with Stamp Upwards Cut. It does a ton of damage against him. Like I said, he's a glass cannon. So we will kill him, and we will get Lhutel the Headless. Also note, a lot of these little catacombs have root resin at the base of them. That is what you need to make things like blood grease and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say it's a good farming place for root resin. I don't know if it respawns in the boss rooms, but pick it up and keep it because it's handy. So I warp back to Roundtable Hold here for a second, and now that I've got Lhutel the Headless, I'm going to see if I can upgrade him with Roderica here. So I have 1 Ghost Glovewort, which is great. So we're going to upgrade him with that. And fun fact, I don't think I can actually cast him yet, or cast her yet and summon her. I don't have enough mind to do it. But that's okay. So let's see. We're going to level up here while we're at the Roundtable Hold. Going to eat a bunch of golden runes. And then we're going to go and level up. And we are going to increase our endurance this time, and that's going to bring us up to level 30. And now we're going to go do another set of catacombs here. So in one of the first episodes, I kind of got lost, went the wrong direction, and I had stumbled into the Deathtouched Catacombs and picked up its grace, so we can teleport directly there conveniently. Now, we don't 100% need anything out of here. It is short and easy, though. I generally like doing this one just because it's kind of lore-y. There's an enemy. The boss here is a Black Knife Assassin. They're kind of heavily involved in the main plot slash string of events that led to the shattering and all that. So I usually like to hunt down all the Black Knife Assassins. Also drops a killer talisman that's great. Great for single player gaming anyways. Not going to use it, I think, right here in this playthrough. The early portions of the game, well, we only have one talisman slot, and I'm going to be using the Radagon's seal. I forget if it's Soreseal. The crappier Radagon seal. We're going to be using that. So we're not really going to have room to use this yet, but it is great later in the game. This boss drops the Assassin's Crimson Dagger. I think that's what it's called. It looks like one of their black knives, but it's red. It's this talisman where anytime you crit somebody, it heals you for a good chunk of your health, which is absolutely phenomenal. It's especially great if you get a a weapon that does like a double crit attack, so that when you stance break someone, you crit them and you hit them twice, it'll actually heal you for twice as much. Not sure if that's unintended, but it works, and I'm not going to complain about it. But yeah, it's a great talisman for huge chunks of the game for exploration, just, getting a lot of sustain going through dungeons and stuff like that, particularly if you focus on like stance breaking enemies with guard counters or just with hard hitting weapons. So like I said, there isn't a whole lot to this particular dungeon here. That's one of the reasons I always choose to do it. It's so short. You just run in here, run down some hallways, kill some skeletons, pull the lever, and the boss door is open. I'm even going to get lazy here and run past a lot of these skeletons. So there's ones that are higher up. There's like a little passageway up to where that skeleton archer is up above. I'm not going to bother getting him. I think there's a sword up there. Is it the Uji Katana? I think that's this dungeon. I may be wrong about that, though. But, oh, looks like I am going to go do that. I forgot. It's been a while since I actually recorded this footage, and now that I'm doing the VO, it's like I don't 100% remember what I'm doing. And then if you're like me and you're an asshole, you'll fall down and have to do it all over again to get back up there. Don't be an asshole. Don't fall down. But yeah, you could see a little glowing item that was hanging over the edge of the ledge there. I think it's a sword. Pick that up. Uji Katana. It's Uji Katana. Sorry. I mispronounced it. I think it does blood loss build up. I think all the Eastern swords do. Pretty sure they do. Not positive, but a lot of them do. And because I am once again an asshole who falls off the ledges of things, I run back there, and I want to see what that little gravewort guy is here. And it is a grave glovewort. So now we're ready to fight the boss, so run back to the fog gate. Usual deal. Buff outside the fog door. Gonna drink my flask. So I put Bloodflame Blade on here. This guy's immune to bleed buildup, but what's nice about Bloodflame Blade is it's still doing fire damage. So we're going to step through here, summon my wolves. So yeah, Bloodflame Blade is useful even against enemies that are immune to blood loss buildup. So you can see how great the tracking is here on these things. They will basically follow him around. But again, they don't do much damage to that Spirit Color Bell. So we're just going to dive in here. We're going to let the wolves draw a lot of aggro. Hopefully take most of the heat off from this guy. This guy starts off at half health, which is nice for us. But these are dodgy guys. That's why it's nice to have this Spirit Wolves here so that you can kind of sneak up behind them and hit them if need be, but seems like I'm mostly trying to cheese him a little bit here with the Spirit Collar Bell, which is funny. Alright, and there's the Assassin's Crimson Dagger. That's that talisman I was talking about. It is phenomenal. I love it. There's also the blue one, which is also very good, which restores a little bit of FP. The health one's a little bit better, I think. FP one doesn't restore that much, but you can use both of them if you want. So yeah, we've taken out a couple of bosses here, and we will pick up in the next episode where we will be taking on Castle Morn, where I will get taught a lesson in patience. Hopefully this is interesting or relaxing for someone to listen to. Like and subscribe if you haven't. Comment if you're feeling talkative. All right. Thanks for listening.